Hello everybody and welcome back to week 3 of the NFL season. Here we are for the Monday Night Football Showdown slate between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to be going over the top overall plays on the slate, both at the top and then some of those cheaper options, and then also a few of those punt plays that every week we seem to find that they find themselves in the winning optimal lineup. Like last night with the 49ers, instead of everyone was playing Trey Sermon, and then Kyle Juszczyk ended up being in the winning lineup. So I'm going to try to go over some of my favorite plays at the lower position. We actually missed first place in the showdown by I had every single player right except I had Sermon over Juszczyk. So that was unfortunate, but I still had a profitable night. So I will first start off by giving you my favorite captain plays of the slate. And it's usually I like playing the top plays. That's usually what you need at the captain spot. And tonight with so much star power on both sides of the ball, I definitely think the captain will be one of these players. Typically I don't like putting a quarterback in the captain on showdown slates, but I do think this one could turn into a shootout, and both of them offer immense rushing upside. So I will include both of them in my player pool at captain. And then of course these two Cowboy receivers, both amazing plays. Zeke, I'm including, if he was more expensive, I would not have included him. But because he's so cheap now, like in past showdown slates, he's averaged probably like over 14, 15,000 at captain. He's only 12.6 now, so his price tag's getting down to where I have interest. And finally, possibly my favorite running back play of the slate is Miles Sanders. So I definitely like him at captain as well. The Cowboys are giving up a ton of receptions to running backs. So I will definitely have a lot of Sanders. So going over the quarterbacks, Dak Prescott 11.2, Jalen Hurts at 11,000. I do prefer Dak Prescott here just because I think Dak doesn't rush as much as Jalen Hurts, but he still has the rushing upside, and he just throws. He's a much better passer with way better weapons than Jalen Hurts. So I slightly prefer Dak if you're only going to play one QB in your lineup. But again, it has to be correlated. If you played like Devontae Smith in your captain, then you should probably play Jalen Hurts in your flex. Going into the running backs, so Zeke and Miles Sanders top play. I'm not playing any Tony Pollard at 7.6. He's basically the same price as Zeke. I personally think Tony Pollard is a better running back than Zeke at this point, but the Cowboys still treat Zeke as their primary back, and he's running a ton of routes still, and I think he's bound for some both touchdown regression and getting more receptions possibly in this game. So I will be eliminating Tony Pollard from my player pool tonight. And then Kenneth Gainwell. I will not have any lineups that have both Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell, so I'll play probably one of the two. I much prefer Miles Sanders, but I will sprinkle in Kenneth Gainwell in some lineups I do not have Miles Sanders. But I do think you need to play one of Zeke or one of these two Eagles running backs in your lineups. I think one of these three players will be needed. Okay, now going into the receiver position, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to make it a rule where I'll show you how I do this. So where one of CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper I want, and I'll leave it to where two of them could appear in a lineup, but I want one of those players in every single lineup. It's just the amount of times that Dak Prescott passes in a game. One of these top Cowboy receivers always seems to have a good game. So I want one of them, and this Eagles secondary is not very good. They have Darius Slay. He's pretty good, but one of these receivers won't be seeing him, and they rotate in and out of the slot. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably take Amari Cooper slightly. I just think Amari is still the alpha in this offense, but I mean CeeDee Lamb is just as good. They're both great plays. Devontae Smith, I might have a few lineups with him, but he's going against Trevon Diggs, who he's actually showed up this year. He's been like a kind of a shutdown corner, and because the Eagles receivers aren't the strongest, I do see him shadowing Devontae Smith tonight. With Smith possibly being shadowed by Diggs, I do think opportunity is going to come up for Rager or Watkins to have a good game here. I prefer Rager slightly. Quez Watkins is still a wide receiver 3, and his price is now in the mid 5K range. So I do think Rager is my favorite Eagles receiver tonight. But I do like the other pass because we know the Eagles use 2 tight ends a lot. With Dallas Goedert at 6'6", and Zach Ertz at 2'2", I think Dallas Goedert is a much better NFL player. But when you take in that price tag, I prefer Ertz here over Goedert on this slate. So I'll probably have a few Goedert lineups. But what I'm going to do is actually, because the Cowboys also run 2 tight end sets, I just think a lot of this work is being split amongst these players, so I never want to have 2 of these players in a lineup. So I'm going to make it a rule to where between Goedert, Schultz, Ertz, and Jarwin, that you're only going to get a max of 1 of these players. It's possible that I get none of these players in a lineup, but I'll never have like two of these tight ends in a lineup. So if I had to pick my favorite tight end out of all of these, it's Ertz. If I had to pick my favorite Cowboys tight end, it's going to be Jarwin. Jarwin is coming off that injury from last year, and I think they're easing him back in, but I do think he's still the better pass catcher than Schultz, and throughout the season I think his workload will increase, and he's cheaper than Schultz. Coming back to the receiver position, Cedric Wilson, because he's still in the Cowboys offense, even though he's the wide receiver 3, he just kind of took Michael Gallup's role, and he's still fairly cheap, so I will have some Cedric Wilson. I don't think I'll ever have many lineups where I have Cooper, Lamb, and Wilson. I think I'm going to set a max rule of to where I can only have at most two of these players, just because it's going to be very hard for all of them to find a ceiling to where they can all 3 be in an optimal lineup. So we'll go a max of 2 of those players. And then these cheaper receivers between Greg Ward and Noah Brown. These are some of these pump plays that I'm talking about, that they see the field, they get snaps, they run routes, and they can just get one of those random touchdowns, and they just find enough points to where they're in the winning lineup. A lot of times these $200, even $1,500 plays, you only sometimes need like 8 points, and I've seen like $200 players, because of what the $200 player allows you to get in the rest of the lineup, you only need sometimes like 4 points from your $200 play, or 3 points. I've seen that in a winning lineup. In these showdown slates, when you're facing like several 100,000 people, you have to get different if you want to be unique and take down that top prize solo. Going into the defenses and kickers, I'm going to leave all 4 in consideration, as I usually always do, but I always make it a rule to where you only get a max. So I'll only ever get 1 of these players in a lineup. I always love kickers. They're some of the best leverage you can get on these slates. Somehow they always go under-owned. Now that we kind of gone over some of these plays, I'll kind of show you like how to construct a lineup with each captain. So let's start off. Let's do a Dak Prescott captain lineup and see what you do. With Dak Prescott being in the optimal captain, that means he's going to have a crazy game, meaning you're going to want to have a minimum of probably 2 pass catchers, and he could rush in a touchdown, so you don't necessarily need like 3 pass catchers, but I would not have 1 pass catcher. The reason being is if you only put like an Amari Cooper in there, for example, and then no other Dallas pass catchers, it doesn't make sense that Dak Prescott would be in the captain. It would make more sense that Amari Cooper would end up being the winner. If all of Dak Prescott's touchdowns and Dak's having an explosion game and it's only going through 1 of his receivers, that means that receiver is having an even crazier game, and they will need to be the captain. When you have a quarterback in your captain, you want to have a minimum of like 2 pass catchers, just because it spreads the ball around to where the receivers aren't the optimal captain, and it's still the quarterback. So, for example, I like Amari Cooper, and then we'll throw in this one, it's like Cedric Wilson, so you get those 2 pass catchers. and then you'd run it back with, you want a running back, so because we went, Zeke can catch balls, but he hasn't been doing it as much. I think it would be better in a Dak captain lineup to run it back with like Miles Sanders, or let's put in the Philly kicker. So you're saying basically the scoring production's coming from Philadelphia through Miles Sanders and Elliott, which is why Hurts isn't in this lineup. So you have to kind of tell yourself a story as you create the lineup. And then the last spot, you have 8,000 remaining, so you know you could fill that in with let's see here. You could do like Jalen Reagor, get one of the Eagles pass catchers who I like. So you could get him in there. You could get in one of the tight ends on the Eagles, like an Ertz, and leave a ton of salary. Look at that. You leave $5,800. I mean, this lineup could win, and you'd be very, very unique. So that's a Dak captain lineup. Let's do like a Hurts captain lineup. Now Hurts, because he's so mobile, and his ceiling outcome is could have like 2 or 3 like rushing touchdowns. You don't necessarily have to have 2 pass catchers for Ertz. You definitely probably want 1, because it's not likely he's a captain if he has like 0 passing touchdowns and just all rushing. With Hurts in your captain, you know, I like Reagor a lot, and then you could get like a cheap Ertz in there, and then run it back with like the Cowboys kicker. Get a running back in there, so like Zeke, and then you have 12,700 left. You have a lot of salary, which is good. With 12,700 left, I mean, you could get in one of these other. Like I said, I want Lamb or Cooper. So that last spot, you could put in Lamb or Cooper, and that would be in Hurts kind of captain build that I like. The quarterback captain, I'll have a few of each of Prescott and Hurts lineups, but I really like these next 4 the most. So let's see what like a Lamb or Cooper. Let's do Lamb. So if you have Lamb in your captain, you're gonna want your Dak Prescott in a flex to correlate, and then like I said, I like Miles Sanders a lot. You throw him in there. Then you get, like, let's see, like instead of the kicker, you could put in like the Cowboys defense here, or the Eagles. The thing about these defenses is you don't need to correlate this too much. These defenses, you could be getting beat and you could lose the game, but if you have a defensive touchdown, you could outscore a kicker or other players that are around the same price and still be in the winning lineup. So these defensive plays, it's all about getting sacks, interceptions, and defensive touchdowns. You don't need a lot of correlation. You can just throw them into a lineup kind of. I usually like kickers more, so we'll just throw in the Eagles kicker into this one. So you have Dak, Lamb, Miles Sanders, Elliott. I like having at least one of these Eagles pass catchers. So Reagor, and then you have 6,100 left. So because you have Dak in your lineup, and just so far CeeDee Lamb as one of his other pass catchers, instead of getting a second Eagles pass catcher, you'd probably want to do another Cowboys player here that's a pass catcher. So you could do one of these tight ends like Jarwin and leave 3,100 on the table. That's a great lineup. Or Schultz and leave 1,300 on the table. Or Wilson. So in this lineup, I'd probably go with a third Cowboys pass catcher. So now let's go into a Zeke kind of like these running back plays, like what kind of build you would want to do with them. So if you have Zeke in your captain, he's not really catching that many balls right now. It's possible he could, but having Dak in the lineup doesn't really correlate, because if Zeke is hitting his ceiling, he could be scoring a ton of rushing touchdowns, taking away from Dak throwing passing touchdowns. So I would rather, this is a lineup where you'd want Jalen Hurts as your quarterback, and then maybe you put the Cowboys kicker, saying that the scoring production is coming from Zeke and Zerline, and then the scoring production on the Eagles is going to come through Hurts. I'm going to keep throwing in some of my favorite plays. So Reagor, throw in Ertz, and then finally you can put in one of these Cowboys pass catchers. So let's put Lamb in. You leave $4,200 on the table. I think this is a good slate to leave salary on the table because you do have some cheap options. These running backs are discounted. A lot of these secondary receivers are cheap besides like obviously the Cowboys. And then you have cheap like tight ends this week. So I just think this is a slate where leaving salary on the table is a good option. And if you do use like over $49,000 of your salary, you should probably be playing like a Greg Ward or a Noah Brown. As usual, if you leave a ton of salary, that's great. That's a way to get different. But if you choose to play most of your salary, you need to have a punt play. And then, so that's an Elliott captain build. And finally, we'll go into a Miles Sanders. So Miles Sanders is a running back play that you could use Jalen Hurts also in this lineup because the Cowboys are giving up a ton of receptions to running backs, and Miles Sanders already does catch quite a few balls. Like in the slate a few slates ago, Aaron Jones was the captain, but Aaron Rodgers was also in it because he threw like 3 passing touchdowns to Aaron Jones. So I think this kind of same thing could happen. So you could have Jalen Hurts in here, but I'll just make it with Dak this time. So you have Dak. Let's get one of Dak's main 2 guys. So get Cooper. If you put Miles Sanders in there, we could put in the Eagles kicker, Dak, Amari. Let's get one of the Eagles pass catchers. So like Rager. Again, if you like Smith more tonight, play Smith over Rager. I like Rager or Quez Watkins more. So Rager, and then that leaves you 7,800 left. In this one, I'd probably be playing like Cedric Wilson or Jarwin or Schultz. So like that's the type of build this makes sense for because you're playing Dak. You wouldn't go like a Devonta Smith in here because if you're playing Rager and Devonta Smith in the same lineup, that means it would make more sense for Jalen Hurts to be the quarterback. I hope this kind of helped you think about these showdown slates from more of a strategic perspective. Yes, it comes down to what plays you like the most, but it's how you build the lineup and the construction of the lineup that matters more than anything. Tell yourself a story as you're building the lineup and who's getting the scoring on both sides of the ball and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense in the same lineup. So I hope this video helped you out. Please comment your favorite captain play in the comments, and I will see you tomorrow for the first look at week 4.